Hello.
What's going on, Dave Lawrence, Hawaii Public Radio?
Hey.
Welcome back, brother. Thank you for taking some time for us. We appreciate it.
Oh man, listen, it's my pleasure. We look forward to it. I guess it's our second time doing the New Year's week, and we had a great time last time. It was sold out. We thought we'd do it again.
It's a fantastic thing, and you've been a busy boy. I was actually looking at some of the highlights from your last year. Did a thing with George Benson, whole little tour. How did that go?
You know, it went well. We've toured together before. In fact, I was his opening act in the 80s, and then in the 90s, I think actually he opened for me on a tour that we did in South Africa, which was a little strange for me because I did not consider George Benson my opening act, but, you know, it was just the way that it was at that time in my career and his career. So we did that. I didn't really like it that much because I didn't want George Benson opening for me. It felt wrong, but it was what it was. Obviously, the music was great. Now we're back to doing it again as co-headliners, and so I think it all came full circle.
Back then, when you were doing that tour that you were talking about, were you guys sharing the stage, like playing together, or just doing separate sets?
Good question. I think we just did separate sets. This time, we actually did a song together. I came out in Georgia. I played first. I insisted. Even though we're co-headlining, I said, look, George, I'm playing before you. That's just the way it goes. And then during his set, I came out and played a couple of different songs, and it was really a fun moment. Just standing there with George Benson playing, and, you know, it's just surreal because I'm in high school listening to George Benson, and now I'm sitting on the stage next to him playing as an equal. It's cool. I mean, I'm very proud of that moment, but it feels... It's a bit surreal in a great way.
Right, it's humbling, I can imagine, and that's a great way that you describe it. And it makes me think when you think about that pairing of you with another cat, and you've done that a few times, you've been so lucky through your life. We recently had Burt Bacharach on the show. He was in town. He actually played where you are, over at the Blue Note, and I see he's just one of the talented folks who was on At Last, the Duets album. Was that something where you recorded together or just did it separately? Or
That was separate. I think almost all of those things were done separately, which was just the way it had to be to put it together with everyone's busy schedules and the fact that we all pretty much have studios at our disposal now because we can just open up our computers and it becomes a studio. So it's pretty easy to just lay a track down for somebody, even if you don't have time to actually go into a major city and find a studio. So it worked out really well that way. And in fact, I worked with Burt Bacharach on another tune. He was producing something for, who was it? Dionne Warwick, I think, years and years ago. And I remember because I had just broken my thumb. I was in a car accident. Wasn't my fault, so. But I broke my thumb, and I remember being in a cast and walking into the studio. Fortunately, it was my left thumb, or was it my right thumb? I can't remember. Well, the thumbs are not super important for sax players. I mean, they are, but it's not crucial. I can still play if I even had a problem with my thumb. Anyway, I remember doing a solo with him as the producer on a song that he wrote, and that's the first time I met him. And so, yeah, it was cool. He's a great guy. Really great guy.
that had to be that's an intense guy to be around, huh? Especially the thing with Dion, which is an appropriate connection for him, too.
Yeah, it's funny, Clive Davis was in the studio then as well because he was, I think, the executive. I honestly didn't feel any intimidation. I never really do because I figure if somebody wants me, they already know how I play. They know what they're looking for. And the only time I ever had a problem was when I think was doing a solo for it was either Michael Jackson's record or I honestly can't remember. It was somebody's record where the guy that was producing it just wanted me to sound like Clarence Clemens.
Wow.
And I said, look, I don't play like Clarence Clemens. Well, can you get that tone? I said, no, I honestly can't because that's just not. You're saying to me, could I dunk, a basketball on a regular hoop 10 foot high? You're saying, well, just jump higher. Well, I can't. It's not part of who I am. So if that's the sound you want,
higher
think,
Clarence.
well, that's the sound we. Yeah, well, I said, yeah, if that's the sound you want, I think it's best if I just put my horn back in the case and leave. And they go, yeah, that's probably for the best.
Oh.
So that was wow. And I said, look, no charge, by the way, no charge. I'm out of here. And that was how that one went.
Wow, now that's definitely an awkward moment. And, the thing about you is you really give to your fans, because I was checking out one of your recent posts from, I think it was in Montreal. You had a fan comment on your Facebook page, and they were talking about how they've been a fan of yours since all the way back when you were on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and how important it was for them to finally get to see you there in Montreal just quite recently. Do you remember that important moment in their life when you got to play on The Tonight Show with Johnny?
Yeah, it was a life-changing moment because back then, we didn't really have instrumental radio stations, and instrumentalists were not thought of the way that they are now. There's so many instrumentalists now that have names and people kind of know them, and there's some following for a bunch of different players. But back then there was just a handful of sax players that had careers and were making records. I was fortunate that I was one of them, but I was just basically starting out, and they wanted me to play a song that was the single at the time, which was a vocal song, and that was the theory back then in the mid-'80s was, okay, look, you will do a vocal song, and since R&B radio is pretty much the only ones that would actually play instrumentals, we're going to get an R&B singer, do an R&B song, vocal song, and you play a solo, and eventually they'll figure out that you're the guy that's playing the solo, and then maybe we can play some of your instrumentals later.
Amazing.
And that was the philosophy. So we went on Johnny Carson to play the single, which was a vocal song called What Does It Take to Win Your Love, a Junior Walker song, and it was kind of getting some traction. But when the curtain went up, I looked at my guys and said, hey, play Songbird. And they were shocked. The guys were just like they were going, what? No, but we're here to play that. I said, doesn't matter. Just play Songbird right now. Hit it. And I played Songbird, and, of course, it's live TV, so there's no cuts. It wasn't like pre-recorded. That didn't do that in those days. Everything was live. Played it, and that changed my career because everybody really loved the song, except for the people that booked me on The Tonight Show. They hated that I changed my mind, and they told me I'd never work in this town again.
And boy, were they wrong, huh?
Boy, were they wrong. In fact, 6 months later, the same guy that said that called me and said, hey, we want you back on the Carson Show to play that song Songbird. It's a big hit now. And, hey, this time we want you to sit down and talk to Johnny. I said, no problem. Nice to talk to you again.
What a way to, that's a great story. That's called breaking the door open for yourself. Wow. What chutzpah.
Well, seriously, what chutzpah. I mean, would I be able to do that today? I'm not sure. I'd be able to. I'd like to think that I could. I probably would, but I was just one of those guys that, I'm always a guy that just tries what I think is the right thing to do and pay the consequences if it really screws up. And that's the way I do it.
Dude, you just shared an incredible lesson with people. That's a public service message, what you just did, because that could be catalytic for a lot of people's lives.
It's proof right there, honestly, right? Because all the cards were against me making that decision. There was nothing, nobody suggested, nobody thought of it. I just knew that I wanted to play a song that meant a lot to me. I wanted to be able to wail on my horn. I didn't want to just be a soloist on a background of a vocal tune. For my one time on Johnny Carson, I've watched Johnny Carson since I was a kid. This is like the biggest show in the world, and this is my shot on Johnny Carson. I'm just going to do what I want to do, and whatever happens after that, I can sleep at nighttime, and that changed my career right there, honestly.
That's huge. And was he a nice guy, too, just in your exchanges with him?
Honestly, when I did go have couch with him, the next time I was there, it was like, hey, man, that was great. Okay, we're off to a commercial.
Oh.
So I don't know Johnny Carson. I never really talked to him. But Doc Severinsen was sitting on the couch as well that night. It wasn't Ed McMahon. So when I sat down with Johnny, there's Doc Severinsen sitting next to me, and then he says, hey, Kenny, when we go out to commercial, play us out, man. We're going to play this tune called Killer Joe. And Killer Joe is a super famous, well-known jazz tune. Everybody knows Killer Joe. I think it was written by Quincy Jones, but it's one of those standards that everybody knows. And so they started playing Killer Joe, and I, from the couch, as they're going to commercial, was jamming with the Tonight Show band with Doc Severinsen sitting next to me playing Killer Joe. So that was, to me, super cool, but I did not talk to Johnny Carson much.
I love it. I'll leave it there because it's a great story. Cuz whenever you want to give up doing the sax a bit, you could just go on a storytelling tour because you've got a lot of good ones, and you just pull them out.
I do have a lot of good ones. There's one right there. There's a lot of, playing at the White House. I could tell you that could take 2 hours to talk about that night. And there's just a bunch of stuff playing for some of the kings and royal families of Asia. It's been a great career.
No, it has. It has been a huge career. Well, if you decided you wanted to do any kind of follow-up while you were in town, I'd certainly come over there to the club. We did a short thing the last time you were in town. But if you got your family, do you have your family with you this time?
No, not this time. No family this time. Same as last time. I'm just coming in with my band is my family, so basically, yeah. So
Right on.
we'll all be there. It's going to be super fun. We can't wait. Everybody's excited. I told all the guys that they could bring their significant others and make it a week if they wanted. I'd cover all the expenses. So that's kind of how we did it.
Can't wait for the shows. Really looking forward to it. Kenny G back on All Things Considered with us. I appreciate it, brother.
Hey, man, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for that. We really want to get the word out there, get people to get their tickets early so they can get the seats they want, because it's. I'm not saying because I'm such a big shot it's going to sell out, but it did last time, and we expect it to sell out again. So, New Year's Eve, super fun. We do 2 shows, and we do the countdown both shows, even though it's, not quite really midnight in Hawaii, but we do it anyway.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Aloha, everyone. It's Kenny G. Do not think of even touching that dial. You're listening to my good friend David Lawrence.
You're an animal. And how are the kids, by the way? I never did ask you. Are they doing good? I meant to ask about the kids.
Oh, the kids are 24 and 20, and they're doing amazing.
Any music stuff with them?
Actually, the big guy, the 24-year-old, he's got a heavy metal group that that's his band, and he's recording music and doing gigs and just trying to, scrape a living together in New York doing heavy metal.
And then Noah?
And Noah is going to USC.
Awesome.
Sorry. This lady's giving me like the finger. This old lady's giving me the finger because I'm coming down the street and there's no place for me to go, and she's looking at me like I'm a bad guy. I got no place to go, and she's just welcome to Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, you need some of that aloha spirit, lady.
Exactly. You'll be the ambassador. Well, very good. Great talking to you, man. Drive safe, and we'll see you when you get to town, hopefully.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Dave.
You're welcome, Kenny. Aloha, brother.
Talk to you. Aloha.